catches her out?
That's all that matters. A good horse only jumps as high as necessary, and it speaks for her the quality and the confidence that without playing her very best, losing a set here, she finds a way of winning the match when she starts playing good. And
you don't need to call her a horse.
Well, I talk about, you know, in general, you know, she's a beautiful young woman that we see her warming up. And
she's cantering up and down outside the players'
always
entrance there.
With the earphones on, and she's very musically evolved, and her stepping is getting better every week here.
The image, we've discussed this before, Greg, she really does not seem to care what anybody else thinks about her, does she?
Well, I think that's one of her biggest strengths if you look at it, because she kind of has the attitude, the world's against me all the time, I'm going to fight, I'm going to find a way to get it done. She has her own routines, whether it's warming up, having those headphones on, she grunts, she just doesn't really make any excuses for her behavior out there, and she goes out and tries her best every day in fights. You've got to look at her background as well, coming from Belarus. I mean, what struggles she's had to go through in her life to accomplish what she's had in the game. She's a two-time major champion. You know, she goes under the radar a little bit because Serena has been so dominant. But let's not remember, if she finds a way to win this U.S. Open, she'll have 2 majors in her back pocket. But going up against Pennetta, it's going to be a big ask because, you know, Pannetta's beaten her the last time they played. Their head-to-head is 1 apiece. And, you know, she does things a little bit differently, doesn't she?
Well, she's certainly doing things differently here, because I've never seen a warm-up quite like this from a tennis player. It's basically dance moves, isn't it? It feels as if she's out there in a disco right now. But she...
looks good.
Yeah, it does. She looks like she's really trying to loosen up the body and just take herself away to a different place. But... yeah, she definitely does things her own way. She's never been afraid of what other people think of her. I've told that story many, many times about when in France, the audiences in France and the fans can be very harsh on players, and they'll certainly make their presence felt if they don't approve of somebody. And they'll resoundingly boo somebody if they challenge line calls when they don't like it. I distinctly remember watching her boo the audience back when she got booed in France. And that was a real sort of display of where her strength of character comes from. And of course in Australia earlier this year, she was extremely unpopular when she went into that final or semi-final against Sloane Stephens. Remember that she left the court midway through the match, and there was so much press and a lot of things said about the fact that she had left the court and it wasn't perhaps a bit of gamesmanship going on there, but she didn't mind at all, and then of course came back and won the title. Wasn't popular in the final, wasn't a popular champion, but again, she doesn't really care.
Boris, is there a line that you can step over? You've got to obviously be focused and do things the right way to become a champion. Do you also have a responsibility to the sport that you need to bear in mind when you're conducting yourself, be it on court or off court as well?
Well, ideally you should think about that. You know, obviously it's forgiven when you're a teenager and you're young, you don't know any better. But when you've been around the block now for a couple of years and winning Grand Slams, you become an ambassador for the sport, and so you have to take a higher role on it. And in order to be a real superstar, and I think every girl, you know, successful wants to be eventually a real superstar, you know, there's more to it than just winning tennis matches. You know, there are many kids back home watching her and you know, wanting to be like her. And I think the older, the more mature she gets, the more she will understand.